So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we've got a question out of Hurricane Idalia in Florida. We've got a question about childcare and terminations in New York. And finally, we've got the all-important 1099 contracting question. And so let's get right into it. Let's get started. The first one is from Hurricane Idalia. This question is it okay that my boss applies my PTO to emergency sick days without my asking? This person gets 3 weeks of PTO a year, no sick days, and emergencies, of course, happen. And they've only had to take one full day off due to an emergency, and then 4 hours due to power outages and Wi Fi problems because they work from home. And during those emergency days and hours, the manager puts the PTO hours to the time card and submits it without them asking. And so they're asking, should he be doing this without, in the first place, without asking? And if it's not a violation of anything, can I still ask him not to do it? And this does matter based on state. Florida has no sick time, so in situations where there might be a sick leave law in place, that may be more relevant. But with respect to Florida, actually, this is what PTO is for, right? These days are for PTO. You don't get to only use it when you want to take a vacation, also from times that you can't work, like power outages, Wi-Fi problems, as well as emergency and health issues. These are the reasons why we have PTO. There are no federal policies governing PTO at all, paid time off, and they don't really exist. And so generally speaking, when you're speaking at least on a federal level and not on a specific state level, if the question is something regarding the PTO and can my boss legally do this, the answer is almost always yes. The next one up is New York, and it says, can I be terminated for not having childcare? They applied for a part-time position at the job or at the mall and let the store manager know that they had the availability and they were good with those hours because they needed closers. They could only work evenings and all day weekends because the husband works during the week and they have to have someone to watch their child. The store manager said, you need to figure out childcare because there are minors who work here and need the closing shifts due to school. And they said, well, I don't know why this is an issue. They fill out availability each week and they're being scheduled for shifts that aren't part of the availability. And they're having a really hard time trying to find another job in this market. I understand. Any advice? Well, you're not being terminated for not having childcare. First, you would be terminated for missing work and as a result being applied to the attendance process of whatever exists at that business and then being terminated as a result of poor attendance. But beyond that, the children who are minors now can only work a certain schedule and you're being pushed out. You're effectively temporary work and now you're being pushed out because they can't. And, unfortunately, the business has the opportunity to change your schedule at any time. And in the current status, you don't have really any recourse. The only thing that I could think of is that if your child was sick of some kind, then you could apply for FMLA on those days that you need off. Most likely, once that ran out, you would just not be scheduled for days that you shouldn't be. And it would be quite a mess. But ultimately, it's important this person isn't being terminated for not having childcare. They're being terminated for not attending work. And it's a tough environment, but in the current laws inside the United States, generally speaking, being terminated for attendance is something you can be terminated for. Finally, this is a PSA and really most important. And this one, I don't have a state, doesn't really matter. It says, I think a hiring manager wants to misclassify me. Companies offered him a position where they're 1099 for the first 90 days and then W-2. But that's not how 1090, that's not how it works. If they're a W-2 and no job responsibilities change, they should always be a W-2. That's not how things work. It's not a time frame. You don't get to pick and choose when someone's a 1099. And this just reeks of poor management and someone who's not really well acquainted with the rules in the United States, and makes me think that probably the business is going to fail or it's going to be miserable to work for if I had to guess. The questions are, is this a misclassification? Yeah, probably. I mean, they don't get to set their schedule, scope of work, or manner. And then if I accepted the job offer knowing I'm being misclassified, would there be problems reporting them? No, but I mean, I would tell them that you're misclassifying me, and if they continue and then they fire you, you'd actually have a more likely case to get paid. But if I had to guess, if they're willing to skimp on the idea of a 1099 over a W-2, they probably don't have a lot of money. I would just stay away from companies who do stuff like this, because it just speaks to a lot of other issues that most likely exist that you're never going to be able to handle, and it will be just a nightmare for everyone involved. So that's it. What do you think? What do you think about the answers? What do you think about 1099 misclassification? Now, it's very common, and it's one of the greatest forms of wage theft in the United States. But I think a lot of people don't know their rights, and that's why I'm here. I
What do
like
you think
to
about
have these
today's
discussions
video?
because it is
Please
really important for people
comment
to
down
understand
below.
the rules of the
Like,
road with
share, and
respect to
subscribe.
employment
It
law.
really helps
Let me know what
out.
you think in the comments
And
down
I'll
below.
see you on
Like,
the
share,
next
subscribe, and
one.
we'll see you on the
Bye,
next video. Bye,
guys.
guys.